Hey there, fourth trimester listeners. Our program today is proudly sponsored by Family Album, your secure haven for sharing baby photos and videos. Head over to the App Store today, search Family Album, one word, download the app, and start creating a legacy of love, one photo at a time. Hi, I'm Sarah Trott, and welcome to the Fourth Trimester Podcast. I'm a new mama, and this podcast is all about postpartum care for the first few months following birth, the time period also known as the fourth trimester. My postpartum doula, Esther Gallagher, is my co-host. She's a mother, grandmother, perinatal educator, birth and postpartum care provider. Fourth trimester care, our topic, is about the practical, emotional, and social support parents and baby require. And importantly, it helps set the tone for the continuing journey of parenting. Hi, this is Sarah Trott. Welcome back to the fourth trimester. I'm here with Esther, and I'm so happy to actually be on a recording for the first time in several episodes for anyone who listens regularly. I've been being a busy person in other parts of life, and so Esther's been holding down the fort. Thank you, Esther. But I'm back for at least one recording.
Hopefully many more.
Who knows when I'll be back again. Anyway, Esther, it's such a pleasure to be chatting with you. It's the start of a new year. We talked about having some reflection and how grateful we are for having this program and all of our listeners. And also, we thought we could just look forward and say, this is fresh year. Let's just go through some of the basics. And we found a list of the top questions every first-time parent asks. So this week, we're just going to go through some of those questions and hear the Esther answer out of the Dear Aunt Esther column and just see what happens. Also, listeners, for anyone who hasn't heard us before, please go to our Facebook page, Fourth Trimester Podcast, and you can search for that on Facebook and find us and like our page and join, and go to our website, which is fourthtrimesterpodcast.com, and sign up for our newsletter so you could be alerted every time we publish a new episode or have something else great to share. We do have a donation page on our website. You can check it out. It's through Patreon, $1 an episode. Even if you quit after $3, we're cool with that. So Feel free.
Yes. Not that you want to quit, but
So here we go. Esther, how are you?
I'm pretty good. And I'm happy for the opportunity to do a Q&A with you on the podcast today. And reflecting over the year, I'm happy to have been able to spend time with my family and all my friends here in the city. And it's a pretty good year.
Life is good, Esther.
Yeah, life is good. I'm actually wearing my Life is Good t-shirt today.
We couldn't make it up, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the first question. It says, do I have to breastfeed for a whole year? It's been 6 months and I'm kind of over it.
Do you have to? No. Of course you don't have to. We're talking about choices that grown women can make. I think, as everyone who knows me knows, that I would be, if I were your doula, I would be looking at what are some of the factors that are contributing to your feelings of being over it. And I would be letting you know from my personal and professional experience that the breastfeeding relationship goes through multiple changes. And each time that there's a change, there is, for some of us, most of us, I'm sure, a kind of a crisis of confidence. Like, do I really want to keep doing this? It's kind of a pain in the butt right now. I want something different for myself. I want a different relationship to my baby. This is kind of a drag. I'm feeling dragged down. There are lots of contributing factors. And I think that my take on it is, at 6 months, are you still being well nourished? Are you still making sleep a priority over other things? Are you still able to find the kind of restorative time away from baby, if you're having any of that, that really nourishes you in such a way that brings you back to baby feeling kind of plush and happy to plug it out for one more day? Those are the things I ask parents first, and I actually dive into the specifics with them. So, would I be recommending you give it up? No, I wouldn't actually. I think that, despite in my personal experience being pretty undernourished and under-resourced as a new mom. There was a gratification and an augmentation of my relationship with my kids that was part of kind of sticking it out with breastfeeding and letting it get to the next phase and letting that phase have its natural history and trajectory and enjoying the parts of those that were enjoyable. But here's the thing. When I did end my breastfeeding relationships with my children, I definitely was doing it because I felt, in air quotes, over it. I felt that it was dragging me out too much and I couldn't sustain it anymore. So, full disclosure there. Do you want to add anything, Sarah?
No, I just see it's so personal, isn't it? It's so personal. Some people don't have that much interest in it. Some people feel that it's an extension of their relationship and they appreciate the closeness and they breastfeed until 4. So it's really personal and there's no strict guidance. And I think that the modern American woman thinks it's, just while the baby's really, really little. But that's not necessarily true. It can be for as long as you want.
And, you made me think of one more thing. And that is that, depending on who you are and where you live and who you're surrounded by, the cultural, social, emotional messaging might be pretty negative when you're breastfeeding a baby past 6 months. And so addressing that messaging would also be part of how I would be supporting somebody if they were feeling like, well, my mom doesn't want me to, or my partner thinks it's gross, or, something like that. Sometimes I think we need support for just how we feel about it vis-a-vis also the messages we're getting.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
So our next question, do I need to sterilize bottles and pacifiers after every single use?
My short answer is no. This is probably your first baby. My mom always tells the story of how she sterilized every single thing, every single use. The pacifier popped out of my mouth. She sterilized it. And then, by the time she got to baby 4, it was like, pick it up off the floor, pop it right back in. Honestly, I'm somebody who is not anxious about the world around our babies. And particularly if you're breastfeeding, you've got this whole immune system you're sharing with the baby that's pretty plausibly going to help your baby address any bacteria and any viruses in the environment to the extent that it can, right? So while I think honestly, wash it off, maybe with a little tiny bit of soapy water and rinse it really good and air dry it, I don't think you ever have to sterilize unless you feel that your baby's products have started to become moldy. In which case, if they're glass, you wash them really good and you sterilize them. If they're plastic, it's my opinion, you should just throw them away and get new ones.
Right. So you're saying it's okay to not sterilize every single last time, but you definitely need to wash with some good warm soapy water every time. And for sure, make sure there's absolutely no mold.
Absolutely no mold. Yes, correct. Yeah. So when you do wash your pumping and bottle feeding and pacifier equipment, whenever you get around to doing that, and once a day is fine with me, honestly, like that's enough. But when you do, if you have any inkling that this stuff has sat around long enough to start showing, and you can see evidence of mold, then it's too late. Sterilization, of glass would be effective, but probably of plastic would not. That's just my opinion.
Cool. Okay. So what constitutes sleeping through the night, and will it ever happen?
I don't sleep through the night, and I'm 59. So sleeping through the night is kind of a myth for human beings. Like, we don't sleep through the night. Some people seem to, and claim to, and I bet their brains turn off pretty good, and good for them. I'm thrilled. but it's really normal to go through sleep cycles and to whatever degree become physically active during those sleep cycles. So, I don't think we should set the bar at putting a baby down at 7 and them not stirring until 7 a.m. That's never going to happen. I think that taking some of the obsession and focus out of this idea that babies will sleep through the night is really, really important. And it's a cultural problem. Like we want to be able to shut the world off, including our kids, at a certain hour and not be bothered. And I don't blame anyone for this. I too would like that to happen. But children younger than, I don't know, my 10-year-old grandson still gets up in the night. And I remember still getting up in the night. I remember being awake for hours in the night as a older kid. So I don't think expecting babies to do that is normative or healthy. So I don't mean to just say, just give it up. But I would also add that I think often babies' sleep is disrupted by their environment. And so it might be important to really do a deep dive search into any environmental factors that could possibly be ameliorated. And I also think it's probably really smart for parents to examine their own sleep habits to determine whether or not they are actually themselves very good sleepers, and what that actually means, aside from the relationship to the baby. So you can think back 3 years before you had kids and think about how did you sleep, and what was that like for you? Rather than imagining that the way your child's sleeping is the problem. Now, as Sarah knows, and as I say to my clients as well, if your family system really, really means that somebody has to get more sleep at night than they're getting in order to stay sane and productive, whatever your parameters are for that, and there is no opportunity to sleep during the day, then that's a larger conversation, and that's a larger conversation that should be had vis-a-vis James McKenna work at Duke University and possibly Angelique Millette or somebody trained by her, so that we're making really good decisions for our family and our family members, our babies in particular. I don't think this is something that we're very objective about.
If this is a hot topic for any new parents, we highly recommend going back in our show and listening to the several episodes we've recorded with Angelique Millette, who is a PhD, and her whole career is focused on healthy family sleep, and in particular sleep for new babies and new parents. And we go really deep on the actual physical barriers that small humans have to sleeping for more than a certain number of hours without the proper nutrition in their bellies. Their babies get hungry, and then they're in pain if there's too much stomach acid. So actually trying to force a baby to sleep more than 3-4 hours at a time can be actually detrimental to their physical well-being. And that's not something that new parents are really trained on. And I think there's a lack of awareness on. So please listen to those episodes if you want to hear more on sleep. Next question, because we're going rapid fire. My mother-in-law says I'll spoil my infant by holding him too much. Is that true?
No. End of sentence. End of subject. No. There's no such thing as spoiling human beings by too much touch, unless that touch is inappropriate and unasked for. Period. Human beings are a herd animal. We're meant to be close to each other as much as we want. We go off on our little solo journeys, but we come back to get touch. it's physiological correct to be snuggling with another mammal most of the time. That's why people have pets, because they don't get enough touch.
You can't spoil something that's good.
Yeah, no, you cannot. Yeah, and I have a sweet story about that. Early on, I was working with a lovely gay couple, and one of the dads was biological father via surrogacy, and the other was his husband and not biologically related to the baby. But he was the one who quickly adopted caregiving for this baby. He wanted to do the diaper changes. He wanted to hold the baby and all kinds of things. And he was this beautiful big teddy bear of a guy. And I was getting ready to transition away from my care of them and sat them down. And I said, today's the day to talk about this transition and any questions, lingering questions you have. And he said, I only have one question. He said, can I actually hold her too much? And am I doing something wrong if I'm just have her on my body all the time? And I said, no. And she's a baby who will especially benefit from having this closeness, and good for you. And doesn't it feel right to you? I mean, do you really actually, when you go inside, what's your own personal answer for this? And he said, oh, I don't think I could possibly hold her enough. And I thought, good for you. You already know, I'm sure as a dad, he's had moments of ambivalence when he just thought, oh, I just would love nothing better than to put this little girl down. But we all have those moments, but it's not because we're spoiling the baby.
Yeah. And actually, we do know there's a real negative impact. I feel like I'm the negative one on this show for some reason, but we've heard it over and over again that there's a negative result if you don't engage and have eye contact and hold your baby enough. So there's a line there where, there's not too much, but there is such a thing as not enough.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I
can tell stories about that too, but they're so tragic I can't bear it today.
Yeah, no, we're going to move on.
Hey, fellow parents, can we take a moment to reflect on the joyous chaos that is parenthood? You know those days when our hearts swell with love at the sight of our little ones and we're bursting at the seams to share every adorable moment with the world. But let's be real. Some things are better kept in the family, and your loved ones who matter the most aren't always close by, and they might not be that tech-savvy either. So how can you easily share your baby's beautiful growth with loved ones while keeping your precious memories secure? I remember the frustration of trying to use some of the big tech photo solutions, only to find they fell short of what I needed. That's when I stumbled upon something truly remarkable, the Family Album app. The Family Album app was created to give parents a secure and easy way to share photos and videos with loved ones. It's an orderly and totally secure haven for your family's personal memories. I love that there's no third-party ads, no unwanted eyes, unlimited storage, and that it's totally free. So to all the parents who are out there still trying to use other messaging apps for your kids' photos, it's time to level up your family photo game with a free photo sharing app. Head over to the App Store today, search Family Album, one word, download the app, and start creating a legacy of love one photo at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, next. My child doesn't exactly sleep like a baby. He's constantly flailing his arms. Is something wrong? Oh, I think that's so charming when people say sleep like a baby, as if it means something other than waking up every 2 hours and crying.
And flailing around with your arms and legs.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to ask my clients when they make that comment, I'm like, well, what was, if the baby is a baby that they biologically carried, right? Like, well, what were they like on the inside? And it's like, oh my God, they wouldn't stop dancing around, right? So, nope. Mammals move a lot. And that's how it is. And yes, are there babies on the spectrum of being humans who are very quiescent? Yeah. I mean, the difference between how my son sleeps and how my daughter sleeps to this day is wildly different. And I got to experience that very close term inside and outside. But no, there's definitely nothing wrong with your baby. Now, having said that, if your baby is doing very rhythmic twitching, okay, there might be a cause for concern, but just literally flailing around, no, absolutely not.
Okay, this next question, classic. Here we go. Is green poop normal?
Yes, it is. And it can be normal for various reasons. If it's a constant, then your baby's not getting any hind milk. And that's not good. So it may be that you're not breastfeeding long enough. So maybe your baby needs to cluster feed and isn't being given the opportunity. Maybe you've created an oversupply by pumping too much or some other way. And so your milk is sitting in your breast, is being produced too quickly and sitting in your breast too long. And so your baby is only getting fore milk and not hind milk. There are various reasons. If your baby isn't having a fever, isn't showing signs of serious discomfort, like all the time, not just say once in a while, then I would certainly want a pediatrician to weigh in on this. But I think the best first answer is if it's a constant, then it's because your milk is too much fore milk. But if it's just happening once in a while, and especially if it's happening in hot weather, it's because your body is producing a lot more fluid to keep your baby hydrated.
And are there colors? I mean, it seems like it's not that big of a deal if it's green. Are there certain colors that are a problem? I remember reading that like black or red or white, like there are some colors where you do want to tell a pediatrician.
Oh, absolutely. And not just tell a pediatrician, but they need to know immediately. All of those colors you just said, Sarah.
Like other than that, if it's like green or mustard or brown or whatever, right, those are fine.
All of the above. Yeah. And they're likely, as your child goes through developmental phases, they're likely to go through some of those changes during a growth spurt or whenever, yeah, absolutely. If your baby was continually, like if every baby poop was also mucousy, but your baby didn't appear to have a cold, I would be concerned about mucousy poop. Not if it's once in a while, but if it's like a regular feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, this is a good one. If I drink a glass of wine, do I have to pump and dump?
Well, the first thing I'd say about that is it depends on how old your baby is a little bit. I mean, just like for us grown-ups, the amount of alcohol per blood volume is significant, right? If you're drinking a glass of wine in the first 6 weeks, you're giving a glass of wine to a small baby, right? If you've got a big, fat, chubby, active 6-month-old, it's a different proposition. And that circles me back around to, like, what are you talking about when you're talking about a glass of wine? I happen to know that a glass of wine technically is a cup. It's not 3 cups in a tall wine glass, right? So in moderation, it's unlikely that you should have to, and especially if you're eating it with a meal and all the things that you would make common sense of if you were able to. So I don't recommend pumping and dumping, but it depends on the circumstances and it depends on the volume.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sarah?
I mean, I'm not a doctor. I would say
neither am I. But this isn't.
Yeah, I know. I would say talk with your doctor, but also, I think I've read that if you take some time in between feeding, so like if you've just fed your baby, you have a small glass of wine, and then you're not feeding for another 3 or 4 hours later, it's probably passed through your system. I don't know. That's kind of an part intuition too. Is like if it's processed through your body, it's mostly gone. But if you're worried, I mean, and you don't want to get engorged, and you just pump a little bit of milk and dump it out. I don't think that's the end of the world. Like, I think it's worse if you're stressed out. Like, it might be technically okay for you and your child, but if you're stressing out so much over it that like that stress then is felt by your family, then it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not worth it to drink the wine in the first place.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you don't know when you sit down at a pump, you don't know if you're pumping out the milk that had the alcohol in it or not. So let's be realistic. Like, how do you know, right? If this is, it's not necessarily going to be the milk that they're going to get at the next feed. It probably is, but we don't know, So, so if it'll make you feel better, go ahead. But, just be smart about it. And listen, the thing I didn't say at the outset of this is if you haven't stopped your postpartum bleeding, then you have no business drinking alcohol or eating turmeric or, don't use blood thinners. Mm-hmm. You need to heal and recover first. That's the first thing. And you need to be well healed and recovered for several weeks before you start testing your body. And alcohol is a test. So give yourself a break.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I know that it's hard. I know that people want to. I wanted a nice cold 3 sips of beer on a regular basis. Just give me 3 sips of beer. I'll be happy. But I forewent it at the time.
What are we talking? IPA and lager?
At the time, I probably would have been happy with, Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
There we go. Okay, so I'm going to combine a couple of these questions because they're kind of related. So it's, how many layers of clothing does my infant need to go outside, and why are infants supposed to wear a hat all the time?
It's a good question in as much as there's no good answer. Infants don't have to wear a hat outside all the time. Do you think babies who live in the tropics wear hats? No, they do not. Of course they don't. They'd overheat. And actually overheating is very dangerous to babies. I mean, babies can be kept warm all kinds of ways, but you can't cool them down if they start to get too hot in an environment that's too hot, right? So be careful about over bundling your baby. So, if it's weather that you're going to have to put on extra layers in, then you should probably imagine that your baby needs 2 extra layers for every one that you put on. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Sarah?
I agree with that. 1 extra layer, that sounds sensible. And hat, no, they don't have to wear hats all the time.
Yeah. But certainly if it's cool and or windy, right? If it's not a hot, windy day, if it's a cool, windy day, then a hat's probably a really good idea because we lose heat out of our head. Having said all that, I lived on the beach in Santa Cruz with my first kid, and she was lucky to wear more than a diaper most days. And it's not warm there. It isn't.
Are you saying that was a good or bad thing?
I'm not judging myself.
It's neither.
It's neither. She survived. She's fine. She's a 41-year-old adult. She's doing great.
Okay. So dress appropriately.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like a lot of the stuff is it's like, it's not pure common sense, but a lot of it sort of is. Like, use your intuition. I think the second a woman ignores her intuition or a parent ignores their intuition, then you start wanting to fall back on these like black and white kind of rules. And the answer is like, well, no, it's not black and white. You don't have to wear a hat all the time.
No. And I thought of another response to that question, which I think is a really good one, which is, I think a lot of times babies they're crying, not only because they're probably hungry. That's the first thing, right? But often I think babies are lacking not just for touch, but for actual warmth. And so if your baby's asking to be held in the environment they're in, right, then if holding them to your body and getting them a feeling of warmth is helping them, then if you're outside with them having to do that, maybe they need another layer. So always have another layer if you're going to go outside. Not so that you can put them down necessarily, but just so that everyone's more comfortable.
Yeah. Cuddling is wonderful for so many reasons.
Great. It is. I might have to become a professional cuddler.
Esther. We're going to move on.
Okay.
Can a newborn truly have her days and nights mixed up? This is our last question. Do newborns mix up night and day?
No. They're biologically made to come out at night. That's how they are made. And they're going to be like that for at least 6 weeks, at least. And they're not going to radically shift at 6 weeks, by the way. They're going to gradually move in the direction of sleeping like other human beings. And no, I would say if your baby sleeps through the night as a newborn, I'd be watching that baby like, oh, of course they wake up all night.
Yeah.
And they appear to sleep better during the day. But that's because everyone else is awake wondering why they're not asleep. You know, like that's the reason for that. It's an appearance more than a reality.
I think you said it well once on a previous episode where a baby might be thinking it's quiet, it's dark, it's a good safe time, let's eat.
Yeah. Yeah. The predators are gone. Mom's right here and she's not going anywhere. I'm going to take advantage.
Yeah. By design.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I don't know if there's anything to it, but probably the amount of light that they got during, day and night previous to being born was very little, very, very little. And so they're attuned to darkness in a sense. And some of their best meals of the day are after mom eats dinner. So they wake up and smell the food, so to speak, and are ready for action. So that's not going to just change suddenly, right?
Well, Esther, thank you for the quick rundown of top questions on the minds of first-time parents. I'm really happy to be rigging in 2019. I'm excited for what this year holds. And so I'm grateful for everyone who helps us with our program and for all of our listeners. Again, thank you so much. We do this for you, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't forget to visit our website, which is fourthtrimesterpodcast.com.
You can subscribe to this podcast in order to hear more from us. Thank you for listening, everyone, and I hope you'll join us next time on the Fourth Trimester. The theme music on this podcast was created by Sean Trott. Hear more at soundcloud.com/Sean Trott. Special thanks to my true loves, my husband Ben, daughter Penelope, and baby girl Evelyn. Don't forget to share the Fourth Trimester podcast with any new and expecting parents. I'm Sarah Trott. Goodbye for now.
Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing all that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I'll sing a song for you. You got your wheels, you got your gears. You ride around town without any fear. You got your pedals, you got your brakes. You always wear your helmet for safety's sake. Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing all that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I sing a song for you. Hello again, bicycle man. I know you're doing the best that you can. I wrote the song, simple and true. I wrote the song, I sing a song for you.